Hello students, welcome to the second part of the poem 1919 by William Butler Yeats. In this part, we would have a look at the structure, the form, the language, the tone and the themes. And here this is a picture of the Greek sculptor Phidias, his workshop. It's very interesting to see how it must have been in his time. He was a noted sculptor. Okay, so let's move to the structure. The first thing you may have noticed is that why it does this appear so different from all the other video discussions. This particular is different. So this is representing the structure of this poem, which is which is kind of unequal. This poem, it has a structure which reflects the disintegration it describes. It is composed of 6 unequal sections that break away from formal uniformity, which is why you see that even in my presentation as I'm discussing, you find this very different. This is to remind you that the structure of this poem is unequal. There are 6 sections. It is a very complex poem, and let's start with the part 1. The loss of illusion. Even in my previous lecture when I was discussing, I did mention there was a bubble that mentioned the loss of illusion. Illusion भ्रम होता है किसी भी प्रकार का. Loss means उस भ्रम को खो देना, right? So this part, it contrasts the pretty toys of past philosophy and of art with the modern horrors. Yeats has highlighted the irony of people who believed that human conflict was a thing of the past, because they had to watch a mother get murdered on her own doorsteps by the drunken soldiers. So the illusion that everything is fine is lost in part 1. That is how it is represented. Part 2, the dance of time, it features the image of Louis Fuller's dancers. The pronunciation is quite difficult even for me, so I try to take care, but maybe it is not very perfect, and that's all right. It compares the image of these dancers, they compare with the human history and the political movements that are happening. These are compared to a spinning wheel or a winding path which is driven by a changing, unpredictable wind. Then we come to the third part, the lonely soul. This part compares the solitary, disillusioned human soul to a swan which is rising into the desolate and empty sky. The next part is, the fourth part is the bitter truth. It is a short, a stinging section. It is a stinging section where Yeats acknowledges that everything vanishes, mocking those who still try to cling to comfort or old monuments. The part 5, Yeats tells the reader to mock the great, the wise, the good, and finally to mock themselves for ever believing that human effort could truly civilize the world. And the last part, the part 5, the violence and apocalypse, it concludes with a nightmarish vision of ancient supernatural evil and violence breaking loose. It features images of the headless horseman. This is an Irish mythological figure. It also features evil historical figures who are riding through the night. So that is the structure for you. And this is a picture from a painting, the painting that was meant to depict or represent the poem 1990. Let's have a look at the structure, the form here. So in section 1, if you see, in section 1, Yeats has employed Ottawa rima. What is Ottawa rima? It is an 8-line stanza form which is traditionally associated with epic narrative, stateliness, and heroic dignity. By utilizing this highly controlled classical meter to describe the horrific modern reality of a drunken soldiery murdering a mother on her doorsteps, Yeats has created a formal irony. The structured dignity of the Ottawa rima, it collapses alongside the Victorian self-delusion that law and philosophy could permanently tame humanity's worst impulses. As the poem progresses into the subsequent sections, the rigid stanzaic forms, they break down into varying line lengths and shifting rhyme schemes, which mirrors the psychological fragmentation of a society. So जो ये कह रहे हैं स्ट्रक्चर जो है वो भी यही दिखा रहा है कि क्योस बना हुआ है, कुछ भी लॉ और ऑर्डर नहीं है, सर्टन नहीं है. लैंग्वेज को देख लेते हैं. डिक्शन, it is elevated, elegic, morning to a biting satirical venom. ये ट्रांसफर है. शुरू में तो एक रोना रो रहे हैं, शोक मना रहे हैं, और लास्ट तक जब तक आता है इट इज अ बाइटिंग, बहुत तीखा हो जाता है, जहरीला हो जाता है. हाईली ऑमनियस, एपोकलिप्टिक. प्रलय आने वाली है इस टाइप की फीलिंग आती है. जैसे कैसे फ्रेज यूज की है, ड्रैगन रिडन. नाइट कैन स्वेट विद टेरर, मतलब रात में डर के मारे पसीना आ जाता है. टोन को देख लेते हैं. टोन इज सिनिकल, सिनिसिज्म है. कहां दिखता है? एनाफोरिक रिपीटिशन है. कौन सा है? कम लेट अस मॉक एट द ग्रेट, द वाइज एंड द गुड. ठीक है, ये मैंने अपने पिछले पार्ट 1 में डिस्कस किया है, आप देख लेना. हेल्पलेसनेस ऑफ वर्च्यू एंड इंटेलेक्ट अगेंस्ट द लेवलिंग विंड ऑफ हिस्ट्री. सो दिस एनाफोरिक रिपीटिशन जो है, जब ये रिपीट होता है तो ऐसे लगता है कोई बहुत डार्क इनकैंटेशन है, जैसे कि कोई मंत्र पढ़ रहा है, काला जादू कर रहा है. And by instructing the readers to mock those who try to construct lasting monuments or ethical calendars, Yeats is suggesting that virtue and intellect are entirely helpless against the leveling wind of history. Themes देख लेते हैं. So the first theme broadly हम ले सकते हैं civilization versus barbarism. So this poem argues that laws, art and philosophy are fragile masks that easily slip away to reveal mankind's inherent cruelty. Yeats describes humanity as weasels fighting in a hole. Look, weasel is a very sly animal. That's how Yeats is describing him, right? And next we see the next theme. So here it says the fleeting nature of achievements. So how do we look at that? The great works of art, for example, the ancient Greek sculptures of Phidias, eventually crumble or get destroyed. It means that no human triumph lasts forever. Then there is disillusionment, A realization that the political ideals of liberation and national pride are often bought with horrific, unpunished violence against innocent civilians. Okay, so those are the broad themes. Let me summarize what we have done in this discussion. We have had a look at the structure, the form, the language, the tone, and the themes. And this will remind you of the unequal structure that the poem is representing. So with that, we come to the end of this discussion. It is a short part 2. In the next part, we would have a look at the symbols, the references and allusions, and a comparison with two of the other poems by Yeats, The Second Coming and Easter 1916, and a third poem which is by T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. It is also a modernist poem. This is Loie Fuller's Dance. See how everything is whirling. And in case you have any questions, you can post it in the comment box and I'll get back to you. I hope you had some learning from it, and see you then in my next video.